Hey everybody, Dustin DePirek here, columnist Jeremy Price. Coming here from Carver Hawkeye. We've actually had to leave the state of Indiana for the first time since November, since it's the first time that Jeremy's actually left the state of Indiana since Big Ten Media Day. Right?
Yes,
Yeah?
it is.
So
First time I've seen the red road jerseys, I believe.
it is. It's a new experience for Price, and a new experience in Indiana that they survived somehow, some way, beat Iowa here 69-65, and we've been talking about this. I mean, I'm sure some of the some of the fans or whatever are gonna be a little bit unnerved by this one, but this is a big win. This is one of those, at the end of the day, yeah, maybe Indiana's bet more than 4 points better, or should be more than 4 points better than Iowa. But one, don't keep in mind this is their first true road game all year. It's the first time that they've gone up in, played in an arena where they had virtually no fans. I mean, there was a handful of Indiana people here and stuff like that, but it was the first time there was not an appreciable amount of Indiana fan base that could sort of take over the arena, because that happened in Brooklyn, and it happened at least it was maybe relatively. It might have been like 75-25, 66-30, 33 at Conseco, or at Bankers Life, I'm sorry, in Indianapolis. But this was the first real time they had to go against a truly hostile environment. They didn't have it all together today. Jordy Holes had a rough day, 0 for 10, but they managed. And I think that's sort of the big thing of what this says, that they can come into a hostile environment, not have everything go right, and get through it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Not only is it a hostile environment, they faced adversity. They did not play their best basketball, clearly.
No,
there
not at
were
all.
plenty of things you could point at and say, this didn't go well, that didn't go well. Whether it was Jordy's shooting, just the offense in general kind of sputtered
Right.
at times.
Often.
Cody Zeller, first half foul trouble. Didn't really get much going until the start of the second half. And then once again, kind of similar to the Butler game, built an 8-10 point lead early in the second half, only to see it kind of start sliding
Dwindle away, yeah. But this time they held it. That's kind of the big thing. I mean, and there were points where it looked like it could go the other way, where you could start saying, "Oh man, what's about to happen here?" Yogi Ferrell missed the front end of a 1-and-1 and then turned the ball over. I think Josh Oglesby hit a 3 to cut it to a 3-point lead. I think he only hit 1 of 2 in a position where he had some big free throws. Christian Watford the same deal, although that was the clincher. But they just kept finding a way to just make a play here, make a play there, get a key rebound, and just obviously it started with defense for one thing. I mean, they held Iowa to 33.3% shooting. Roy Marble had 14 points, but he was 1 for 14 from the field. Victor Oladipo, another spectacular defensive outing. He just keeps getting better. But they found a way, and I think just what did you see from them defensively today? I guess what was kind of the key, I guess, to put them in a position where they were in, just to continue to get stops.
Well, obviously, it started with Oladipo's defense on Marble. I mean, it was clear from the outset that there was a scouting report. I noticed he was mostly trying to force him to go left, getting up in there.
They were forcing him into guys. I mean, they were, Oladipo was kind of giving him baseline, especially on the left-hand side. He kind of forced him into Cody a couple of times, and just Marble didn't seem to know what to do with that.
And I think the other thing is in this particular instance, Indiana's defensive quickness, especially with Yogi Ferrell, Victor Oladipo, Remy Abel, those guys, they had more quickness on the perimeter than Iowa did, and that went a long ways into shutting things down. And then Iowa has a pretty good big man in Adam Woodbury, but
and Aaron White was good though. Aaron White is, I think, one of the more underrated players. I think he's kind of a goofy looking kid just in terms of the way he's built. He just is like sort of awkwardly built around the shoulders. He's just got this sort of like, I don't know if Uncle Fester thing going for him is the word I'm looking for, but he looks a little bit awkward, but he's really good. He's a heck of an athlete. 15 points in this one. It was really, really tough for Indiana to deal with. I mean, he was an all Big Ten freshman guy a year ago. A lot of people forget how good he is. They had a hard time containing him, but just about everyone else they were able to keep together, like you said, especially Woodbury.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa was only 3 of 17 on threes, and if you remember the game here last year that they lost,
Matt Gaydens went freaking crazy.
Yeah,
in
Matt
that game.
Gaydens was
I think
triple
that. He had 30 at
just
least.
about.
I think he had a ton. I think he might have had 10 threes in that game. It was nuts.
Yeah, I was to say he far exceeded this output right here alone
by himself.
By himself. So there wasn't anything like that, and a lot of the credit goes to Indiana for putting the pressure on. Not leaving a lot of those open shots, and when they did get open shots, it felt like they were rushing those open shots because they knew they weren't going to be there long.
Yeah, I mean, even Mike Gessel's a guy who likes to shoot a lot of threes. He managed to score 13 points, but he was 0 for 2 from 3. Didn't get a lot there. Anthony Clemens, I think, had a hard time just getting anything going. I mean, Josh Oglesby, a guy, he was lights out, I think, last year. He had 24 against Indiana in the game where they blew Iowa out. But he kind of kept that game looking respectable, and he had a huge 3 late, but that was sort of the only ones that they got. was really the ones Oglesby hit, and I think Aaron White hit one. But they didn't give up that a lot. Sometimes they've had issues with that in the past, but they managed to defend the three really well. And really, I think also fought on the glass. They didn't win all the rebounding battles, but they kept getting after. They kept getting after the ball at the glass, at the rim. Iowa had 12 offensive rebounds. I think they had 5 second chance points. So they had a hard time, even when they got it back, even when they got second chance opportunities, offensive rebounds, they had a hard time scoring off of it. They did a really good job of just keeping it, even when I was at the rim, they didn't give up. They didn't give up a lot of easy layups. Had 4 blocks. I think Zeller had a key one. I think that probably should have been a goaltend on a bucket Devin Marble almost had, but they just kept fighting, especially when it was close. Just when the ball got inside, they managed to keep from getting in the bucket.
Yeah, I think it was really just a matter of timing. It seemed like Indiana could come up with the key offensive rebound, defensive rebound, the block shot, the stop whenever they needed it. I mean, I think I counted up in the second half. I was looking at it the last 8 minutes. Iowa had the ball with a chance to tie or take the lead, mostly tie, because it was usually a 3-point margin,
right.
6 times, and they scored once.
Yeah,
which was a Gazelle layup, I think it was, and three of the other possessions ended in turnovers.
Right.
So even when the defense was scuffling a little bit, they came up with a timely stop when they needed it, and were able to keep themselves in front, which I think was a big thing. If Iowa had ever gotten to the point where they went in front,
it might have come down. Carver Hawkeye Arena might have come down on Indiana's head if that would have happened. I mean, it was really loud in here. It's louder than I've ever seen it in here. And there's been a couple occasions where we've seen these games in the past, and they have not been particularly well attended. But it was jacked in here today. It seemed like this was a game that sort of the fans had sort of circled and said, "Hey, Indiana's going to be here. We beat them in the past. Indiana hadn't won here since '08, and Iowa's got a team. I mean, Indiana obviously is a top 5 team, but Iowa, Fran McCaffery's done a really good job of rebuilding this program. I wasn't sure he was going to be able to do it the way it seemed like he wanted to go get a team that was more athletic, that was going to play up tempo, because I wasn't sure that was the type of guys you were going to get in Iowa. They had some bruisers. That's how they were winning games. It's just some big, tough dudes that looked kind of like wrestlers because it's Iowa, and that's what you get. But this team, they can play. They're athletic. Devin Marble, as bad as he had a game as he had today, is a heck of an athlete. Aaron White, again, is a really good 4-man who can play inside and outside, but can really play physical inside. The Woodbury kid's going to be really good eventually. Not quite there yet, but they're putting it together. They're 11-3. So Iowa had this one circled, and the fans came to make it just a really difficult environment, which was good for Indiana in a lot of ways. Basically, just to get used to this, just to get used to feeling pressure. There's been just very few times this season that they've felt any pressure because they've been playing teams that they're vastly superior than, and they needed one of these. A couple other guys had some big games. Will Sheehy had 13 points. I think just did a really good job. I think what he was really critical for was that they faced a lot of 2-3 zone, and Sheehy's mid-range game, when it's clicking, is critical in that. Tom Crean said today you don't want a situation where you're taking a lot of mid-range jump shots, but I think that it's not that you necessarily do, but if you can hit them, it's key because those are some ways of getting easy looks, easy points in the zone. It's not easy to get easy layups against it, and if you're not hitting with your 3-pointers, you can fall apart really quick. And I think Sheehy was a big reason that they didn't. He was able to kind of soften them up because he was able to find little holes in it and score 13 points. The crowd got into it against Wilt today. The crowd was chanting, Sheehy sucks a lot. I thought he would have relished it, or at least admitted relishing it more than he did. But he said, I don't mind being the most hated player on the team. But then he cussed, just ripped into us because he says that, we tell him he sucks all the time because he doesn't make shots. And I don't ever remember saying that. So if anyone could find us the Will Sheehy hit job piece done in the media, send it our way. I'm pretty sure he's inventing it, but that's okay. That's Will. That's what he does.
Gotta find your motivation somewhere.
He just wants to take people on. That's what it comes down to. I think he relished it a lot more than I think he had to be smiling when he heard Sheehy sucks coming down on his head. He must have been relishing that big time, even if he won't say it. But I think this obviously is key for these guys going forward for a number of reasons. I think they got to feel like they kind of just dodged a bullet, basically.
Yeah, not only did they maybe dodge a bullet, but maybe they kind of set a tone for the season going forward.
Right.
A mentality of being able to win with defense, with toughness, instead of necessarily with offense. I mean, you look at last year, most of their best games were cases where the offense was clicking, they were firing on all cylinders, and this was not one of those games, and they still found a way to win this one.
Right. It's a big one. So anyway, first off, Happy New Year, all the all you guys will be spending in Iowa City. Excited. Thanks, Big Ton. Love it.
We'll celebrate an hour later.
That we will. Exactly. It's the first time I've ever done that. Also, shout out to our man Mark. It's this local guy from Iowa who always comes out to Indiana games. Comes to stop by at the press box every time, before these ones tip off. So shout out to him again. Shout out to all you guys. Happy New Year, everybody, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks.